Welcome back to Champ Talk with Branden Hudson. We're happy to have you guys back. We always are so grateful of you guys tuning in and listening and all that good stuff. And like we say on all episodes, please like, subscribe to the channels, leave us a comment or review. Tell us how this has affected you or changed your life, or tell me how much you hate me. I don't care. But I'd love to read the comments. I'd love to read the reviews. I know I shouldn't, but it's really, it means a lot to me. Plus, if you know somebody who would get value from this, or somebody that this could impact or maybe help change or whatever, man, just like, subscribe, share this to them, do all the things. Let us know that you are here listening to Champ Talk so we can appreciate you. Shout you out. And without further ado, I have a special guest today. This guy is a legend amongst legends. He has a resume that is larger than life. This is my guy, Mr. Rich Barr. How are you, Rich?
Just wonderful. Excited to be here, man.
Notice his sarcasm in his tone. I literally had to beg Rich for like a whole 6 months to come on my show, and finally he cut out the time of his busy schedule to come join me.
I'm sending you a bill for this.
That, right? I knew that. Yeah. I knew that. You're the first person I have to pay to come on Champ Talk. So guys, if you don't know, Rich is COO at the Maryland and Delaware Group of EXP. He's Branden Brittingham's partner. I've had Branden here on the show, and a lot of people see Branden on the front lines with all the the content, the speaking, the mindfulness stuff, the podcast. He's doing like a number 1 podcast, number 2 podcast in the country on investing. They see Branden all the time, but they don't really know who the guy is. It's like the puppet master who's like putting all the stuff together and making it happen. Rich does a lot of things that I see firsthand that, just is like, man, it's the glue. It's the stuff that the conversations in between the hallway, coming in the office, putting out fire after fire after fire. It's funny, like Branden has an idea, says, hey, we're going to do this. Rich is the one that executes the idea, makes it happen amongst, other things.
Or kills it.
Or kills it. But, with all the stuff, and we'll get into that later, man, your family owned Barr International, correct?
Yep.
So that was a big, for those who don't know, our millions of listeners across the country, those that don't know, Barr International was a freight lining company that, serviced, sold trucks.
So we had a handful of heavy duty truck dealerships and sold and serviced all that kind of stuff. So kind of like having car dealerships, but big truck dealerships.
Yeah. And that business did well, right?
Yeah.
It did pretty well.
Yeah.
And then you're also a alumni from Salisbury University, right?
St. Mary's.
St. Mary's. Yep.
So Maryland. Yep.
Played lacrosse and did all that stuff. So why in the fuck did you get into real estate?
I mean, looking back now, as an idiot. No. So it's kind of going down that line. I mean, the only thing I ever knew was truck dealerships.
Yeah.
So that's all I ever wanted to do. I really enjoyed it. Like, even as a kid going in there, playing with the trucks, all that kind of stuff. So, it's the only place I'd worked previously, since I was 14 years old, every summer working there, working parts department, service department, all that kind of stuff, kind of working your way up. And going back to 2015, had kind of an opportunity that we couldn't refuse, quite honestly. So, and I think, everything kind of happens for a reason. And so kind of at that time, my dad was getting ready to transition towards retirement and all that kind of stuff. And so kind of when, having kind of an unsolicited offer, it makes you kind of stand back a little bit and, take pause and realize and start thinking about like, hey, like, is somebody trying to tell us something? Right. And just like any other business, landscape was changing a little bit, that kind of thing. You had to grow. We were growing. We bought a dealership not that far away, less than a year before we sold, because that wasn't kind of our plan was to sell. So did that. I stuck around for a little over a year after we sold and realized that I wasn't good at working for somebody else. Mm-hmm. So just kind of decided that real estate sounded fun. I'd actually bought a rental from Branden. That's the way kind of how I knew him. And I guess kind of the rest is history from there. That's when I jumped in.
Wow. So, yeah, Branden tells a story about how you showed up and just randomly said, hey, I'm working here now. He's like, what? I know if you ever talk to Branden, he will literally deter you from getting into real estate because it is hard and it is a difficult industry to crack open, especially in that first year or so. And it's like there's no rhyme or reason. It doesn't matter how good or great you are. You got to go through the trenches in the beginning to kind of learn it and get your ear.
The first year, man. I mean, that's what makes or breaks people. And there's you know, I always tell people there's a handful of walls that you got to bust through in that first year.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't even know what the stats are, but it's probably 1 out of every 5 that can do it.
Yeah. How was your first year?
It was awful.
Yeah.
I was fucking terrible. You know, and I think for me too, I got hung up and when I talk to our new agents, hopefully they don't, some of them do. I got hung up on the fact that I didn't want to let somebody down. You know, I didn't want to sell somebody a house or, you know, that I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And I know that this is probably the biggest purchase that they're going to make. So I want to make sure that they're taken care of. Right. So that was my, I don't want to say downfall, but like, that was my kind of my thought. So it took me, I probably didn't sell my first house for 6 months.
Yeah. Really?
But it also, you know, I'm not saying that was great, but it gave me a time to like ramp up to kind of like, you know, hone in on what to do, what not to do, and all that kind of stuff. And then quite honestly, you get to a point where you don't make any money for 6 months, your back gets against the wall a little bit and you say, shit, it's time to go sell something.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what happened for me. I went from 0 to like 60 pretty, you know, after that first 6 months, you know, ramped up real quick and then, you know, went from there.
Wow. So you've been with them where you guys been working together for what, over 10 years?
Close to it. Yeah. So this was 2016.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the amount of changes you've seen in that office alone is probably something to write a book on, isn't it?
Oh yeah. Well, you got to think too. So kind of going back to that story where I just showed up. One, yeah, I mean, I spent about an hour with Branden when I told him that I was thinking about getting my license. He spent an hour telling me why I shouldn't do it. And it wasn't necessarily a negative way, but he wanted to make sure I understood what I was getting into, especially coming out of something that I was already successful at.
Right.
Number one. And then but the other side too is, you know, here I am doing something now, which in the dealership world, which I did love, which I hated. Yeah. I didn't like getting out of bed. I mean, like you don't realize it in the time, but like, you know, I was probably depressed. Right. So then I hated getting out of bed. I hated going to work, all that kind of crap. So that's when I just made the jump, you know, and I literally got my license. And then it wasn't that long after, it was the end of September. And so that like end of the month is like big in like dealership worlds and all that kind of stuff. Gave them my, you know, 2 weeks notice and told them that I'd really much rather leave right then and there, which they were, I think, halfway excited about. So as I was pulling out, so this is 5 o'clock on a Friday, I think it was a Friday. Called Branden up and said, hey, I want you to hear from me. I just quit my job. I'm going to take a week off and then I'll be in the office. He said, okay, what office what are you talking about? What office? I said, your office. He's like, what the hell are you talking about? I said, I just quit. I'm going to take a week off. Then I'm going to be in your office. So that's literally what happened. And so I showed up and yeah, it's kind of, so to your point, you got to think too. So he was kind of at that point in a transition. So, they were working out of the actual Long and Foster office when we were with Long and Foster at the time. They just moved out because actually the office flooded. But it was Branden, like 3, maybe 4 other agents, and then 3 people in property management. That was the team. That was it. That was, you know.
Wow.
So, you know, the Christmas party was, hey, whose car are we taking to, you know, go down to the restaurant or whatever. It's not now where we're, you know, trying to figure out where we can take 75 people to.
I didn't know that. I was unaware of that.
Yeah.
And then, so he went from out of that building to the new building is in now?
So we were we were kind of renting a place downtown.
Okay.
And so we were there probably 6-8 months. And then we bought where we're at now.
That makes sense because I know that there was some ties down there. They had that studio down there that he had some ties to. And we had a shoe store down there that he'd pop in, you know, that I'd see him there. And I hadn't seen him since, you know, we were running around in the clubs together and acting up back when, as, you know, younger guys. So that makes sense. So, yeah. So if people don't know that the building that we're in is a huge warehouse, a huge building.
It's almost 40,000 square feet. Yeah.
It's not small. And I mean, we're filling that thing up pretty rapidly. You know what I mean? I mean, it's got a lot of stuff in it now, but I mean, it just, the more and more we grow, it just continues to fill up with new offices. We built Shore Home Construction in there. You know what I mean? So yeah, so you've seen a lot of changes and a lot of dynamics. What was the game changer, you know, or the tide shifter for you to go from like a salesperson to, you know, stepping into such much more of a, you know, decision making role, a leadership role, you know, really the backbone of the company. You know, what was that? I mean, did you max out in your job? Was it like, you know, something where at the end of the day, it was like, hey, I see a skill in you, or, what, elaborate more on that one.
So I think, you ever hear like the phrase, sometimes better lucky than good?
Yeah.
I think that's kind of where we fell into. So, Branden is pretty much what you see on the video, except he doesn't always wear that shit, whatever it is, right? All the time.
Yeah.
So he's a go, real high level, go. He and I are very similar in a lot of ways, right? So like, I think one from a work ethic standpoint, two, when all we were focused on, at the beginning, it was just sell houses. And everything that we do now came out of that mind of basically, okay, sell a house. What's a pain point for a house? Hey, getting the repairs done, right? Hey, I'm selling a house. That's why short home construction was started originally.
Yeah.
Right. So it's all, what are the pain points so we can sell more houses. So, after the second year, I'm selling 100 houses a year. Branden's selling a few hundred, that kind of thing. So the thing is, and we spent so much time together that we started, looking at different things. He had a pretty large rental portfolio. I had a rental portfolio. So we said, well, what happens if, why am I handling, yes, property management is running it, right? But I have mine, you have yours, and I want to grow mine and you want to grow. Why don't we do this together? So that was actually the first thing that we did. Was I had mine, he had his, and then we started buying stuff together. And we said, okay, well, why don't we just take this and smush it all together?
Yeah.
Right. So that was kind of the first thing. And then during that same period, so this is during actually really kind of the first year. So we start doing that, and then we're doing flips. So kind of in that same thing. Okay, well, the flips, yeah, don't get me wrong, we make money when we flip a house, but we're kind of creating some inventory, commissions, all that kind of stuff, and it's good for the team and all that kind of stuff. So we started doing that stuff together. So we're doing those pieces, and then I'm learning as we're doing it. But from my kind of the dealership background, what we do now, where we have the brokerage side, the off market side, the construction side, title side, blah 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 blah. To me, in my mind, it's like running a dealership.
Sure.
Right. So we build new houses. Well, that's new trucks, right? Okay. We're flipping a house or this or the other. That's used trucks.
Yep.
All right. How are we going to do all that stuff? We're going to use the service department. We're going to use Shore Home to fix the truck, to fix the house, all that kind of stuff. So it's all those different pieces, in my mind, all these different departments.
Got title, got lending,
correct.
Got in-house lending.
So
all
every
that.
little thing, here's the body shop, here's this, here's that. And so, going through all that time of, because not everything's easy, right? So everything's under one umbrella. But, if you're on the construction side, you want to make sure everybody does well. But, they have an incentive to do well on the construction side, just as well as we do on the new build side or sales or whatever. So it's managing all those different pieces. And that's where I think probably most people fall apart. So when we decided, we go into this big building, we want to do these things. We didn't have any of that other stuff, none of it. And then, so that's when we started adding. I was kind of straddling the fence of, hey, I can do the same thing and I can go out and I can sell a ton of crap. But the backside of it, no one is watching any of this stuff, right? Yeah. So it's, hey, it just go, fly by the seat of your pants. Hopefully by the time it's all said and done that we pay all the bills, hopefully we made a bunch of money, but we have no idea about what the hell's
typical
going on.
realtor
type
mentality.
Yeah. And typical entrepreneur, right?
Yep,
go.
Yep.
We'll worry about the unsexy, the stuff that's not fun later. Right. So that's what we were doing. And for some unknown reason, we were successful doing it that way. Right. So, but I think, we both kind of recognize, one, that from, a global standpoint, we're very similar of what we want out of life, what we want out of business, all that kind of stuff, where we want to go, what we want to do. Okay. And then, hey, who can do what here? And to Branden's credit, he, obviously you see him all over the place, whether it's Facebook, he's speaking, he's doing that. Like, that's what he's really good at. Brandon's really good at getting in front of people. Brandon's really good at opening getting probably into doors and all that kind of stuff that he never should have been able to get into, but he always has been able to. Right. So then you go and you do all that kind of stuff and you go after those shiny objects. Well, what happens when you get it? Yeah. That's the thing. Cause I love doing that crap too. Like doing all the fun, sexy stuff, that of course everybody wants to do that. Yeah. But now you go and you went and you got it. So now what do you do with it? Right. So how do you make sure that you don't drop that ball? How do you make sure that everything's running correctly? Okay. Now you have, 14 different businesses. Okay. Well, who the hell's looking after the rest of it? Yeah. So that's where we kind of had to make, I say, okay, hey, I have to start, pulling back on the sales side and all that kind of stuff to make sure everything else is running, which is fine. So I think that's kind of why, we each kind of, we're very similar, but we each kind of understand like our roles and what they not necessarily, who enjoys this, that, or the other, which is true. I do enjoy this part of it, but hey, I got to do this because if I don't hold on to this stuff, who knows? I mean, it could go bad really quickly, especially with some of this stuff and some of the dollar volume that we're doing.
Yeah, it's when I get to witness some of the magic and I see a glimmer. You know what I mean? I don't see the whole behind the curtain, but it seems like you guys complement your strengths complement each other very well, and each of you are able to pick up the weaknesses, fill in the gaps. And obviously Sarah, she's a huge component to that, and Charlene, and there's a lot of working parts. Your office staff and stuff like that are a lot of working parts. But when you really look at it, like it's like you can tell where it's like it just works very very like organically. It doesn't. It's not forced. It's not I don't want. I mean, everybody's quick to just take the role and go and run it, man. And that's also impressive, dude, because it's like coming from a dealership background. I worked for a dealership for 6 months. I worked for Mark May Ford way back then, right? And I don't even know if you knew about that place because that was in 2000. That was during 9/11.
Yeah, that was early 2000s.
I was a senior in high school. Or I just graduated high school. So where Pohanka is now used to be Mark May, right? And they had a real big one down in no, that was Sherwood. I'm sorry. Yeah, that was afterwards. Yeah, it was Mark May Ford. He was an old football player, Redskins football player. Came out and bought it. And I experienced the dealership life. My wife's worked at a dealership, and it's tough. It's a rough life. You know what I mean? Like you can make some good money there, but you're going to work every hour of the day. You know what I mean? You're going to be there, and the culture tends to be pretty. You know what I mean? Like you got to find the right people in that world because the cultures can be very, very tough. They can be very
people are everything.
Yeah.
Culture is everything.
100%.
Yeah.
So coming from that world to into real estate, a lot of them don't succeed. You know what I mean? You've seen it firsthand. I bring in a couple people from the dealership and it's just like, man, they got that mindset because you have, I guess a bunch of shiny cars literally on the slot that you could take somebody to and, you can deal with like this salesperson that really you don't like or vibe with, but it's only a couple of hours. Get the car I want. I ain't never going to see him again. Where opposed to real estate, you got to go hunt what you eat. You got to make sure that you're bringing together a relationship cadence of, hey, look, I'm trying to help you and get your pain points and all that and build a relationship. So that's pretty remarkable. So what was like the turning point, man, for you guys? I know, but like, now you're in the trenches. You start to figure out, what it is that you guys, need to be doing as far as what roles to play, who's going to manage what, pull back, who's going to go hard. You're starting to get that synergy. You're starting to get people. I know, you've had some, I like to say rebuildings of the offices. You get a good group, and then sometimes that group doesn't always, dissipate. You rebuild and you do it again. And I think we got a really, really amazing group that we got now. But what was like the big turning point? Was it like something happened? Was it like did you hit your goals, or what would you say that really turned you from being just like a smaller man operation to like now like a huge conglomerate? I mean, dude, people. I mean, we're known.
Yeah,
people know, they know we do some shit. What I mean? What would you say in your opinion was that?
I think it's probably a couple things. So I think the first was we actually took some time to sit down to really kind of map out. Probably, 5-6 years ago, what we wanted, right? So what we figured out was it was more and it was bigger than just go sell a shitload of real estate.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's still the goal. We still want to do that, and we still want to have our agents and be successful and all that kind of stuff. But so like, what is it? Right. So we decided, hey, yeah, we want to go after all that, but we want to do bigger things. We want to get into different spaces within the real estate space, like where we're at now, raising money and investing it and doing all that kind of stuff. But along with, doing all the other stuff, growing the property management company, growing the construction company, doing all that kind of stuff, one, because, we probably both are a little bit psycho that way, but two, one, we'd like it.
Yeah.
Okay. We'd like, I like getting up and going to work every day, but two, really create something for everybody else that's in and around us, but then also for ourselves, kind of, something that's lasting, that's valuable, for, my kids and everything else. So once we figured out, okay, hey, we want to go beyond just selling a ton of real estate. okay, what does that look like? So one, and Branden talks about this all the time. So everybody looks at Branden, oh, you've done this and you're this and you're coaching these people, this, that, or the other. But don't forget, we did and we still do have coaches. Mm-hmm. You know, we're just fortunate enough that we've grown and leveled up a handful of times to get, you know, to be, you know, business partners and be coached by, you know, some big time players, some, you know, guys that have, you know, been here, done this, have, you know, billions of dollars in their checking accounts. Like that, that's verified real stuff. So once we kind of defined what we wanted to do, then it was, okay, well, you know, work with these people of, how do I get here? What's the next step? What's this? What's that? And I'll tell you, the single most important thing that we ever did was when we hired Sarah, our CFO, right? So like I said earlier, so here we are, we're doing a million things. We're jack of all trades and masters of none. And somehow we're making a bunch of money. But basically, we're doing all this crap. And then every month, I'm literally grabbing a shoebox worth of receipts, canceled check, this, that, or the other, and saying, here's what we did.
Yeah.
So, okay, are you profitable? I don't know. I mean, I think my bank account says that I am, but I don't. So what'd you make? I have no fucking idea. No clue. But I sold 10 houses this month and we flipped 2 and we did this. Cool. Are you profitable? I don't know. So until you do those things and define that kind of stuff and then bring somebody in like Sarah as your CFO and all that kind of stuff, that's when things changed. So then now, no matter how shiny the object is, no matter how much Branden and I think that something's greater this, that, or the other, then we can put it in front of her and say, okay, we love this. And it's kind of like, okay, now you figure out how do you kill it? Right. Or hopefully here's how you're going to help us make this successful. And it goes both ways. But that I think was kind of the single biggest thing. So then we know our financial position, we know it in any of our business at any given time. And now we can make, you know, up to the minute decisions on what we're doing and what way we're going to do it.
Dude, this is so exciting for me. You know what I mean? Because if you're listening and you're in the entrepreneurial space or real estate space or business, whatever, like there has just been like a ton of gems that's just been dropped on you guys. Like, first off, you know what I mean? What I think Rich said was most important is he burned the fucking boats. Like, he burned the ships. He didn't play willy-nilly of saying, hey, I'm going to get into real estate, but I'm going to hold on to my job and kind of see what it is. He said, fuck this, I'm out. I'm going to go ahead and jump on in. We're going to go ahead and see how this works. And, you know, if we fail, we're going to fail forward. We're going to figure it out afterwards. That's a huge thing that most people cannot grasp. They want to do a bunch of different things and not really get successful or good at one thing, right? And that I think was the first gem. The second gem is as he was going through it, he felt the trend. I mean, he felt the squeeze. You know, you went from a handsome, comfortable position where you were going to, you know, paying your bills, doing well, you know, family business, probably had some perks there and as well, you know what I mean? Like, it was a great situation to, you know, I'm not going to make any money for 6 months. You know what I mean? I'm going to sit here and, you know, eat shit and, you know, feel all the psychological problems. I'm sure many times throughout that part, you said to yourself, this isn't worth it. This is a bad idea. Like so many of us in the entrepreneurial space have done. You know, if we're not willing to burn our shit down every week, then we're probably not doing a good enough job.
Yep.
But he went through that. He pushed himself. He like per his words, he broke through so many doors. You know, these are things that you guys have to go through when you're starting off in the space. And then the other side of it is as he went through that, you know what I mean, he got on the same page. You know what I mean? I think so many people are so scared and afraid to say out loud what they want, right? They'll say, oh, I want to make 6 figures, or I want to make $1 million, or I want to buy a new house, or I want to do this, but they won't say, hey, this is who I want to become. This is what I want to say. And you guys said, look, we want to build something great because 1, we're fucking crazy like that. But 2, we also want to make sure that we're helping people and providing for people and giving other people the same opportunities we are. And also, you know, seeing how big and far we can go, right? And then again, we're talking about gem after gem. So if you guys aren't writing notes, you're fucking up. You know, he also talked about, you know, he's got coaches and he's got people that are telling him how to do things. You know, when you come from a successful place, you know what I mean? Sometimes you get this ego about you, or this space in your mind that you know everything, right? And I think it's a very dangerous place for business owners and entrepreneurs to be. But, you know, you guys were going out here paying for coaches, you know what I mean? Paying for people to sit for you. I know a couple of them, you know, who, or I know of a couple of them that coach you that are like, they're the real deal. And for you to make that, you know, and I say sacrifice, but that investment, you know what I mean, into yourselves is huge, you know, and then, and I think this is the biggest one out of all of it, you know, because, you know, it's one thing, it's different when you first start in entrepreneurship and, all right, I burned the boats, I'm motivated, I'm ready to go, I'm going through the trenches, I'm giving wins, I'm getting losses. But then when you're in it and you're starting to see some success start to roll in, start literally bringing in people that can do your job better than you, and do a job better than you, right? You know, Sarah, that first of all, I love you and Branden tremendously, man. I'm grateful for everything. And I just, you know, we've gotten along for the past 5 years, even though you want to fire me. But
it's true.
Sarah is my favorite person in the office, right? Because she's got the money on time. Plus, she's a sweetheart, but she's a savage when it comes to becoming a CFO, or when it comes to being a CFO. And I've literally heard stories about you guys will literally say, "Oh man, we got to tell Sarah. What do we tell Sarah?" That's not right. So she
controls the money, man.
But you would not, you know, talking to her, she's the sweetest person in the world, but she has that ability to you know hold it down. But it's great. It's great because you guys are saying, look, we need somebody in here that can do a way better job than your average. And you sought out that's huge for you know, any of you entrepreneurs out there, especially like for me. You know, I experienced this my last this past year, a couple of years, is the delegation side of it, and putting
it's tough.
Putting your baby in somebody else's hands. So I think that, man, these are some gems that you're dropping. I'm so excited about hearing it. You know, we're talking about real estate, right? And real estate has been the ultimate machine and the ultimate vessel, right? But truth be told, you're not even in the real estate space anymore. You're not even really selling homes anymore. If you do, it's by accident, or it's by like, hey, I got to do this because, you know, this is a friend of mine or a personal thing. You and Branden have stepped into a whole new space now. You know, he's cool. He's got the speaking and all that and the social media stuff, but really the lending and the investment side has been huge. What is you know, what is your advice on, you know, not trying to sound pitchy or salesy, but what's your advice to entrepreneurs or to anybody that's, you know, making good money but don't know what the fuck to do with it? Like, you know, why get into lending? Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's, you know, that's something I mean, I'll tell you. And that's why I think too, that we work well is, you know, it's something that I was scared to death of. So, you know, we start talking and, you know, originally we can find all the deals. Right. We can find as many deals as we want. We still can. Right. But we couldn't get them funded. Or I shouldn't say couldn't, but hey, you know, it's to go do a flip and then have to go to a local bank and you want to do another one, go to, you know, all that stuff, 60, 90 days by the time you get your money, this, that, or the other. Heaven forbid you want to do something big. Right. So like in some of the apartment complexes we've done, you know, we're trying to get this stuff done and it's 6 months and this, that, or the other. So, you know, we're sitting there going, there's got to be a better way. Right. So the thing is, you got to kind of, you know, you got to crawl before you walk. You got to walk before you run, all that kind of stuff. So you got to feel that pain, right? You got to go through those steps and you got to do that stuff where you start with one, you know, buy one house and flip it, buy one house and rent it before you get to doing 10 flips at a time, before you're buying multifamily, you know, 100+ unit, you know, deals, all that kind of stuff. So you got to go through that, feel the pain, but that's also where, you know, you're doing two things. One, you're learning. You know, make your mistake when you're doing, you know, one deal and not when you're doing $100 million deal, right?
Right.
But then two, you know, you got to build that track record. And that's something that we talk a lot about, right? Like you can, in this world, especially today, you can buy damn near anything.
Yep.
Buy whatever you want, but you can't buy a track record, right? So that was one of the things. So we start a fund, right? So we say, hey, you know, Branden, you're liquid, you have some money, give us your money, right? And you know, and basically you're investing in us and we're going to put it into real estate and we're going to give you a return. And we believe that we're going to be able to give you a better return than the stock market or this, that, or the other, or whatever, because, you know, you trust us, you like real estate. You know, most people like real estate. They think it's sexy, all that kind of stuff, but they understand like, hey, all that other stuff is really difficult. So we built that track record. We did that first fund and we were very successful doing it. To the point where we ran the fund, we paid everybody more than what we told them we were going to pay.
Yes, you did.
And then
I can vouch for that.
Right, you were in it.
Yep.
And then wound the fund down and gave everybody their money back. What a novel idea, right? So what's crazy?
Wait a minute. So you asked people for money to invest. They gave you money. You invested. You promised them a return. You went above the return on most of the transactions, and you paid their money back.
Yeah.
Wow. Do you hear that, guys? Most of your internet fucking people are not doing that. Just for the record, there's a lot of shit out there, but you know, anyway, keep going.
Yeah. So, I mean, so I think that's the thing. So once we kind of, you know, prove the concept, you know, obviously to ourselves, to our investors, all that kind of stuff, we say, hey, you know, there's a much bigger world out there. Again, you know, we have the coaches, we have the other people that are helping us, you know, point us in the right directions. So that's really where, we've been focusing a lot of our time is, okay, what are some of these other things that we can do that is still real estate related that we can go out and really nationwide now and, take and invest other people's money, including our own money. We always put our own money in these deals too. And, how can we go, create wealth for not only ourselves, but everybody else that invests with us, through real estate. And I think that's kind of what we've figured out.
Yeah, it's been great. It's been great because, man, that was not even on the table when I first started 5 years ago. You know what I mean? Like we were just starting to, Shore Construction wasn't even there, the construction company. So then watching that fund go where it is now and or where it started and where it's turned into now is like, it's incredible because, I mean, everybody that I'd go like on trips with and stuff with you guys, I mean, they're all invested in it. I mean, they're all like, I'm in, and everyone's happy. Everyone's happy and it's so forth. Real quick, we're going to segue into, we want to just thank our sponsor. This episode is brought to you by the Maryland and Delaware Group of EXP Realty. We want to thank them for all their support.
Are we paying for this?
Yes. Also, if you're looking to get into real estate, you know what I mean? Whether you want to be getting into the wholesale department and don't need a license, or you want to necessarily get into, the brokerage side and get your license, message me, holla at me, you know where to get up with me. I'd love to sit down and have a conversation with you. And if you're already in real estate, you know what I mean? Look, let's have a conversation, kind of see what makes sense and see if there's something that we can help you with, you can help us with, at least have the conversations. We can go from there. All right, back to the meat and potatoes.
So one other thing though on that, I brought up earlier, like, from a home sale standpoint, we were always creating things, trying to solve, other, issues through a transaction. That's one of the things though, that one of the reasons why we did the fund and why we're doing new funds and all that kind of stuff is because people know what we do, that we invest ourselves and we do flips and we have a lot of rentals and all that kind of stuff. People were constantly coming to us saying, hey, I want in. So how do you bring somebody in, right? That just says, I might have the money, but I don't have the wherewithal. I don't know how to do it. Right. So this is how we solve that issue, right? Hey, we can take your money. It's going to go into real estate and we can give you a return for it. Mm-hmm. And that has solved that issue. That's why realistically you take Shore Home Construction, Shore Home's great and it makes money and all that kind of stuff. But realistically, that company solves a problem for me. It solves the oversight problem that we have of, who's doing this flip, who's managing this. Hey, we're buying these rentals. We're doing this as long as it's local, that kind of stuff. That's why that was created, was to handle that whole oversight of all that kind of stuff. So, so realistically, again, it's like, we're trying to the things that we see and we know, and the people, we're trying to always solve those problems. And that's really where we've evolved to. So that's why we're in the funds and the investment side and all that kind of stuff. I think the other thing too, which we haven't talked about, I don't know if you're going to go into it or not. What I think is really cool is, I would say of the 30 agents that we have, probably a third of them have had the opportunity to either invest with us in the funds and all that kind of stuff, or we've helped them physically purchase real estate to either flip or to hold as rentals. So, I mean, we've, in that same vein, I mean, we've helped fund them, we've helped find them, we've helped renovate them, we've helped give them guidance, all that kind of stuff. So I think, from that angle too, that's something I think that probably differentiates ourselves, that we don't even do a very good job, because it's second nature to us to really put out there. That, I mean, if you come into, our house here, like, we want to help you. Yeah. We want to help you, grow in whatever that is and build wealth, right? And do it through real estate. It's insane. I can only imagine how many realtors out there don't own their own house. Right. Okay. So how can we help you in your own house? How can we help you buy your first rental or a flip or whatever? The same thing we were talking about, Sarah. Think about how many of these people don't even understand, hey, you got to save some money. Why? Because of taxes. Hey, do you have a 401k? All that kind of stuff. The majority of our agents have 401ks and all that kind of stuff, because quite honestly, she'll come in and we'll have her do and talk to them and teach them about all this kind of stuff, so that they are, financially literate and all that kind of stuff. And then hopefully that, put themselves on the correct path, so, at some point everyone's going to want to retire too. Yeah. Right. So I think it's all those little things. It's all those things. It's always kind of just being so, hyper focused on, okay, how can we make something better? How can we make an experience better? How can we make the experience for our agent better? How can we make the experience for our client better? And all the way, like, what are those little pieces? I'm glad you brought that up, because, with all my, recruiting, marketing and stuff like that. And when I sit down with other agents, I'm letting them all know that. Right. Mm-hmm. But I'm glad you brought it up unprovoked, because that is true. Like I've witnessed it so many times where
there's so many things that we're not going to speak on the show about that I've seen you guys do behind closed doors as, hey, as a favor. Look, I care about you. I want to help you, whatever. Let alone how you guys and how we sit there and we open this path and this roadmap of where you could start as a brand new agent or an existing agent walking to the door and where you can end up. Because you guys have no problem saying, hey, if somebody fits the moxie, come on in with the lending side with us. Come on in with the investment side of us. What do you want to do, right? And it's so crazy that people don't grasp this. But, one of the things alone that sets just the brokerage side apart is our training and the things that how much time we invest. I mean, we're in that meeting every week, you know what I mean? And it's Branden every Tuesday, you know what I mean? Drop in, 40 minutes of, whatever he knows, whatever he's experienced, whatever he's learned, whatever basics. If it's not you, if it's not him, it's you. If it's not you, it's me. One of us that meeting is on every Tuesday, no matter what. The new agent meetings, the script meetings, the CRM meetings. Like, we have all of these, and these meetings are not like, hey, what are you doing with your little, barbecue this weekend? These are real solid high level trainings, right? That's just the brokerage alone. Then you add the fact that, you guys are agent centric all the way around, where you're trying to help these guys invest money, trying to set up their portfolios for retirement, trying to set people up so that they can evade the dips and the peaks and the dips and the peaks and kind of keep an income where they can predict it and stay, without sweating every other month after they spent their money. We have, I'm going to name off the stuff and you can stop, you can add or interrupt me if I'm not, but we've got the brokerage side. We've got expert home buyer, which is the wholesale department, which we wholesale real estate. We're searching stuff for properties for investors, property for our own portfolio, properties for, quick flips. We have our fix and flip, We have the rental property. We're up to 2,000 doors we manage over, and
just about 2,000.
Own over almost half of them, or if not more. So we have a construction company, which if anybody understands, like, you have a issue with just a simple issue with an inspection. You've got to call 6 different people for 6 different issues. We got all that in-house. Then we have a title company. We have an in-house lender. We can get you in-house financing. We have a marketing department that sits here and they do all of your headshots and all of your stuff for your listings, your videography, your copyright, all that stuff. We help you with the website. And then just having you guys, like, that's worth it more than anything. Like, and it's funny, Rich, because, man, I will sit here and I will talk to people, you know what I mean? And it's I don't know if it's a area thing where, like, this area just struggles with kind of thinking bigger. I don't know if it's such a small pool. I'm not quite sure what it is. But you'll convey these things to potential recruits or existing agents, and they'll come back with the same shit. What's the split? You know what I mean? Or I'm loyal to my brokerage. All these things that are like the split and being loyal and all that. There's a difference between being loyal to a brokerage or loyal to a company. And there's a difference between, hey, making sure this business agreement is correct, right? Yeah. Making sure this is mutually beneficial.
What's your value proposition?
Correct, right? Me saying I'm loyal to Rich because Rich, lent me $1 one time before I bought a Happy Meal is not business. That's a friendship thing, right? And people get it mixed up here. But I convey all these things to these people, and it's like the glaze over their eyes goes. But when you hear it firsthand or see it firsthand, it's like, dude, you're literally, I've watched you guys over and over and over again. I wouldn't be a part of this company if I didn't believe this and didn't trust this. I've watched you guys give people the blueprint, and I've watched people's lives change. Like kids, middle-aged, grown, older folk, it doesn't matter. I've watched their lives change right in front of me. So what would you say would be the next 5-year plan for you without giving it any kind of like crazy, like, we're going to fucking run for president. But what would be like
is retirement on that?
Well, what does that look like?
Still. Yeah. That's a good question. I think, I don't think there's necessarily massive changes per se. Mm-hmm. I do think, we want to continue to really grow and expand on, the investment side, the lending, because, like you said, we're doing 2 different pieces there. One, we have the funds where we're going out and buying property and all that kind of stuff to bring a return. But then we also are lending money, for, real estate transactions, mortgages, that kind of stuff. So I suspect that, we're just kind of honestly at the infancy stages of that. So I think in 5 years from now, if you kind of just take a look at what we've done over maybe the last 10 years, so next 5 years, I think this is kind of like, this is our new focus or not just new focus, but this is the thing that we can take and really expand, in like we always talk about, put on steroids or whatever and really grow that. So, what does that mean? Does that mean that we're not focused on brokerage or property management or anything? No, not at all. Of course we are. I mean, that's our bread and butter. That's how we got started. Right. But I think that's kind of, that's that next thing. Like that's the next evolution of where we go is into, the bigger lending spaces and the bigger, funds and multifamily stuff and all that.
Gotcha. I ask all of my guests, especially the business owners and high performing entrepreneurs this, and I'll ask you this, as well. Like, you've talked about it. It's you like it and you can't sit still, but also, it's tough. It's a tough. I mean, even today, it's still tough. You know what I mean? And is it worth it, man? Like overall, like all of the headaches and the people and the backstabbing and like all the shit you just got to deal with, and sometimes the fuckery that I put you through. Like, is it worth it, man? Like,
yeah, fuck yeah, right? I mean, I think kind of it's weird being in a spot in my life now too, where that I'm not super old, but I'm 40, so I've seen some things, right?
You're a middle-aged
right?
man.
Yeah, which is crazy. I'm still pretty confident that I'm still just that like 21-year-old dipshit. But like, so you go through those different things, right? So like, what did I find? I was fortunate enough, to grow up in a family business and have all that kind of stuff. But then, went through some adversity after we sold it, and wasn't happy doing that, working for somebody else, doing it not the way that we did it. And sometimes the reason why we didn't do things the way that we used to do it was because that is the way we used to do it. And they wanted to do it completely differently. Right. So being able to take all that shit off the board, and going back to the earlier conversation, when I walked in the building the first day, did I think that this is where we'd be? Hell no. Honestly, I just sat there and said, hey, okay, if I just sell real estate for the next, 30 years of my life or whatever, I'm going to go sell it. I'm going to go sell as much as I can. And then I wanted to invest in real estate, buy some rentals, do that kind of stuff and, and create wealth that way. Right. And so that was honestly what I thought that I was going to do.
Yeah.
Until we didn't. Right. So, yeah, is it worth it? Absolutely. It's worth it because, I wake up every day is different. But it's not to me like the monotony of a 9 to 5 and all that kind of stuff and being limited in what I can, make financially, the things, that I want to do, what I don't want to do, I don't want that. Now, I mean, obviously you can't have your cake and eat it too, right? Like maybe I don't necessarily need to be, but I'm in the office 7 days a week.
Yep.
Right. I just am because I just feel like I need to be. But the flip side to that same thing though, is I still have that freedom. Right. Yeah. So I don't miss any of my kids' stuff. I make sure that I'm at, whatever it is, whether it's a recital, a game, a practice and whatever, I'm there. All that kind of stuff. And then obviously, hopefully the reward at the end is a financial reward, right? On one side, of why you do it and why, you put so much blood, sweat and tears and all that kind of stuff. The other thing too is like, I am doing it for my family because there's a legacy that I want. Like the legacy that I want isn't necessarily like, hey man, like cool, like you were able to donate, $2,000 to something. Like I want to have a legacy like where like, my family, my name and all that kind of stuff is like on a hospital building.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Like
Absolutely.
It's not just to do the, little things like that. But the other thing, kind of part and parcel to that, which is really cool. And we've kind of touched on it in a few different ways, but is to be able to bring people into our organization and to help them grow and to watch that and to watch, they came in, whether it's, a 20-year-old kid as an agent that had $5 in their pocket and now is, been here for a few years and making 6 figures and is buying real estate to hold and all that kind of stuff, or on the construction side or whatever it is, like knowing that like you had a piece, you were a piece of, somebody's like actual growth, not just financial growth, but just as a human, right? Like to see, somebody kind of like grow up a little bit or not, even if they, were 40 when they came in, just say, hey, so many people have so many limiting beliefs of, oh, it's this, it's got to be this, it's got to be that. It's like, no, man, there's ways to do some things and to really change, again, it kind of always goes back financially, but just to see like, hey, like if you bet on something and realistically you bet on yourself, that like what you can do and what that can bring you and your family. Like to me, that's one of the coolest things.
And that's, that's really shared amongst all the greats. You know what I mean? Everyone's all about everyone's thinking about other people and legacy. You know what I mean? that have really done something and went through those trenches and, just have built something great, man. And I know that's important to me as well. It's like, the money's great, but I understand the money is just a tool. You know what I mean? I want to be able to, honestly, one of the things for me is I want, you don't ever see a picture of great-great-granddad in nobody's house anymore, right? I want to be that great-great-grandpa that changed the dynamic for my family, That's a legacy thing. That's something. And in doing so, I don't think I'll ever be able to do it by just amassing a massive amount of wealth and putting zeros and commas in my bank account. It's going to be through people, helping people, growing people, and inspiring people. But what man, this episode flew by, man. This has been awesome, dude. It's like there's so many things I want to touch on. If somebody wanted to get in touch with you on, like, say, for instance, the lending space or something like that, or in all, where can we find you, man? Here's your socials and phone number, email, address,
social security number.
Just let them all have it, Rich.
We're out there. I mean, you can definitely Google, myself, Branden. Hit me on Facebook, LinkedIn, or any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Email me. I can promise you, if you type in my name or Brandon's name, it'll come up. Probably my cell phone number will come up, all that kind of stuff. So, which is all good, right? It's whatever, if there's anything for any of you guys, for any of your 4 or 5 actual, listeners or whatever,
you get 5 calls a night.
Maybe we get up to 10 on this one, but no, I'm just kidding. But whatever we can do to help, we're here, and we want to, whether it's on the lending side, obviously, or if you're an agent or whatever, reach out and let's have a conversation.
Awesome, man. Well, man, listen, dude, I just want to say this, you know what I mean? Just because, it's just, I want to give you your flowers, man. You've been a huge help to my growth and help to me in my business and my family and things like that. And, grown closer and closer over the last 5 years. And, being at that office, already being in leadership, already being a coach and all that stuff, you guys have just really opened my mind up to what's possible, opened up doors that I didn't think I'd be into. So, and then obviously, working with you guys and working for you, it's just been great, man. It's been a great experience. It's been hard as fuck. Some days I want to fucking, jump off a bridge. You know what I mean? But it's always,
it was easy. Everyone be doing it.
Yeah, man. It's always worth it. I'm very grateful of you, brother, and your mentorship, your friendship, you know what I mean? It's things like that. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you. And, I look forward to where we go from here and how we grow it and continue to go. But that's it, guys. Rich Barr, man. If you guys got any questions or want to have the conversation about lending, maybe potential agencies, you know where to find them. Just Google his name. But that'll wrap us up for another edition of Champ Talk with Branden Hudson. Again, please, we ask you to like and subscribe. Send this to somebody if you think they would get value of it. You know what I mean? Just please, you leave us a review. Anything, we love to hear it. But until next time, guys, what are you doing today to become a champion?